Remember the last time I was posting about the timber rattler scarab lockback and how it was ridiculously big? The intro started out with, "Give me a knife, no give me a bigger knife, no give me something ridiculously big." Yeah, well, kind of the same thing here. It's like, I like folding knives. How about that? Nah, too small. Alright, something longer. How about that? Nah, still not need something a little bigger. Alright, something impressive, huh? Yeah, how about one of these? Well, we're getting there. Not quite big enough, though. I want bigger. You want bigger, huh? 4.5 ain't enough? How about that? 7.5 inches? Will that do you? Yeah. This is the Cold Steel Espada XL with G10 scales. This is kind of the cheaper, lower cost option compared to the other one that has aluminum polished and micarta for the handle. And the blade on this is stone wash instead of a polished finish. Still, very, very high quality crafted knife. Very well made, sturdy as heck, no blade play whatsoever, even for this huge, huge blade. Pretty thick, and we're talking thick in terms of, compared to the Spartan, same blade thickness exactly, but it's still pretty darn thick. Very deep belly. A little size perspective for here. The blade itself is almost as large as a fully extended Gerber Evo. The handle is way bigger. And the depth, of course, of the blade is just stupid large. This is not something you get as an EDC. It should be obvious right off the bat, but some people, honestly, I've seen questions posted, "Would you use an Espada XL as an EDC blade?" No. This is so large, it's not impossible to carry, it's not impractical to carry, but it is simply a defensive and display knife. Plain and simple. That is all it can be just because it's so large. This is larger than a lot of Bowie knives. I'm talking fixed blade. This is gargantuan. This is you can two-hand this thing and still have some look. Look at it. 2 hands on it and you still have extra grip on it. This is, in all respects, a pocket sword. What they say in the Cold Steel catalog, this is a modern interpretation of the Spanish navaja. Or if you're from, some redneck states, it's the navaja. But it's freaking huge, and this is again, a poor man's pocket sword, basically. Not really poor man, it's not cheap. Defensively, this is awesome. Giant blade length, lots of piercing ability. You got that clip point kind of design there, a little upswept. Great for slashing, stabbing, thrusting, pushing it in, turning it, rah, that kind of craziness. The shape of the blade, or the handle here, which is G10 scales again. You got this nice finger groove here, and when you first pull it out from your pocket here, if you get a nice deep grip on it here with your thumb here, your fingers just kind of close around there pretty close to right off the bat. It just falls right in there, and that automatically gives you this giant reach. I mean, a lot of distance and reach and everything, and again, that's a huge advantage if you're talking defensively. And the triad lock on this is a huge asset, because when you're dealing with a blade of this size, you have to have a really strong lock. Now, the previously reviewed, again, timber rattler, this is a lockback, but nowhere near the kind of quality and strength. This, I mean, look at this. Hear that? That's all this blade play, up and down, side to side, and this is riveted together. Yeah, it's a little more shiny, but this was $17.99, as I recall. That's about all it is. This is a wall hanger kind of thing. This is something you get out and just show off like, oh wow, it's a big knife. This is not just something you hang on a wall and show off. This is something you could legitimately use to defend your life, in lieu of, obviously, a firearm. Again, there's, you know, some places where you can't legally carry a firearm, or maybe you're not of age. Maybe you're 18, not 21 yet. Maybe you don't have your concealed carry permit, but you can still legally carry one of these. Whatever the case, this is probably the next best thing to having an actual short sword on you. I'm talking about almost the same exact length, really. This is actually a hair longer overall. Blade is just a little longer. But anyways, but this is something that it's straight up a fighting option. This is a tool to save your butt. And it is, as such, it is meant to be carried, and in doing so, they've done a pretty good job about making this, in spite of its gargantuan, ridiculous size, this is still carryable easily. I mean, look how, this is pretty darn thin. A little perspective here, this is a Gerber Evo. Yeah, it's thicker, but not by a whole lot. It's pretty considerably thin. These G10 scales are very strong, pretty lightweight. It's like a fiberglass reinforced kind of resin. Has a steel liners that go about halfway. Then it has this insert here in the back. Again, the triad lock, you need that strength to be able to support this massive chunk of steel. You know, in terms of when you're striking or thrusting into something like that, the heavier and longer and bigger the blade is, the more force it's going to exert on this area here. You've got to have something that'll really hold up, and this, I have no doubts, will hold up to anything you throw at it. I mean, you know, if you've seen the videos Cold Steel puts on their website and on YouTube, they do some ridiculous things, hanging weights off of these and stabbing them through car hoods and all sorts of crazy things. And the destructive power of this blade is insane. The things that they cut through, you know, lengths of rope and everything, they put this almost the exact same kind of things that they do with their swords. We're talking full-on katanas and wakizashis and such. I mean, this is just, it's ridiculously, incredibly strong. And price-wise, yeah, that's not cheap. I mean, this, you know, this could, in theory, save your life, this little thing. And this is only about 20 bucks. This, I cost, well, I'll get on the overall cost, but this is supposed to cost around, I want to say like 150, somewhere thereabouts, 150 to 175, depending on where you get it. And it's about half the price of the upscale version of the Espada, because it just has G10, which is a cheaper material as opposed to the polished aluminum and micarta. And it doesn't have a polished blade, it has a stone wash. As you can see, it's still not bad looking. So, now, when I mentioned the cost, this knife initially cost me $150. After all was said and done, ended up costing me almost $2,000. And long story short, cut the snot out of my right thumb when it closed. It was partially open. I was trying to open it with inertia like this, and when doing so, I had my thumb here, and it got just that little bit right there inside, and this came back down because this big heavy blade and that triad lock doesn't take much, it chomps. So it chomped, and it just felt like it tapped my thumb, and this sharp, heavy blade darn near severed the entire tip of my thumb. I had 13 stitches, $2,000 worth of ER visit bill. And I still have, the tip of my thumb is screwed up, the nerve endings right here. I can't feel squat. It feels like a piece of bubble gum glued to the end of my thumb. And I've, as such, had to change my everyday carry knives. I can no longer use this for everyday carry because I can't use thumb studs worth a damn. I have to use either a flipper or a lockback. And and even the liner locks, it's really hard for me to use. I have to use the side of my thumb joint to do these. So I switched to, you know, lockbacks like, say, the AK-47 and such for my everyday carry as a result of this. So, word to the wise, be very careful when you're dealing with this thing. Well, I demonstrate the opening of this thing, the wave type opening deployment. I was scared, like, yeah, because it's, and just a graphic reminder to myself and a note to anybody else, see that smudge right there? That is blood from my thumb when I got cut. I could put up some pictures. I'll do a separate video on like knife safety sometime. But yeah, very, Very expensive, very painful lesson to be learned. So just learn from my mistake and my stupidity. Be careful when you're handling this knife. Whenever you close it, close the handle. Don't manipulate the blade, close the handle. Okay? So, anyways, deployment, very quick. Does take a bit of finesse because it has this long blade. A lot of the time this part here will end up slapping the back of your leg. Won't necessarily stab you unless you catch the tip, but it will, if you don't fully engage this, or swing it out all the way, it won't engage the lock, so you end up like that. So unless you hear that authoritative clack, then yeah, could be a problem. And the detailed scales in here, they are grippy, very nice. I mean, it kind of makes up for the fact that it is so thin because you don't have as much to hold on to, but very grippy, very durable. And this, surprisingly, I have not had to modify at all. It has because it has a long clip on here, it's strong, but it's more bendy compared to their other ones, so I didn't have to bend this clip out. So you can see it's still contacting the surface there, so still tight. And I did not have to sand down the G10 on this because it's not gripping so tight, so it doesn't chew up my pants. The AK on the other hand, I did have to sand, and it's the exact same G10 material. So it doesn't require any modification. The only thing I can suggest, just put a little bit of Teflon inside here, a little Teflon spray or gun oil or whatever. And another thing is leave it like this whenever you're not using it. It kind of helps soften the spring. Work the lock back a lot. Just pushing on it, either push on the edge of a counter or just do like this while you're watching TV or something. And that'll help soften up the spring because this triad lock, as most of them tend to be, is very hard to disengage. But now that I've got it pretty well broken in, I mean it's not that hard to do. It's still a little, but you have to use the side of your thumb joint here and not the tip. Makes it a lot easier. And also if you push towards the back and not in the middle here, you get more leverage. It does have a nice deep cutout for the lock on there, as opposed to the aforementioned AK, which has a very shallow cutout, and you have to really work on pushing this in to get it to disengage. So, would I recommend this? Depends on your needs and wants. If you want something cool to show off, if you want a legitimate defensive blade, and we're talking, again, in lieu of a firearm, if this is the next best thing and you are capable with a knife, heck, even probably the sight of deploying this thing in front of a mugger would probably be enough, but I wouldn't count on it. But yes, this is an excellent defensive blade. Very impressive for just show. Everyday carry, yeah, unless you, again, are carrying it for defense, I wouldn't. It's big, pretty darn heavy. When you carry it in your pocket, you don't really notice it so much. I mean, even if you sit down and you're driving and stuff, this doesn't bother me. But this pocket is just dedicated to this. Whatever pocket you carry this in, this is it. You might be able to carry it inside your waistband, maybe in a sheath, just get rid of the pocket clip. And it does come with 2 pocket clips because you can't put it on either side. They're side specific, they're curved. But you can put it in a pocket or an inside waistband sheath or something. But yeah, it's great for that. Don't feel it, not really heavy. But they do make 3 sizes of the Espada. They do make a medium, which is probably about the same size as this. Somewhere a little shorter than this, not too much. But that's the medium. The large is pretty much the exact same size as their Voyager line, which is a 5.5 inch blade. This is 4.5, so 5.5 inch for the large, and this is the extra large, which is somewhere around 7.5. It's a pretty big jump. This is the monster. This is the King Daddy, the big papa. So one of those other two, maybe. Definitely, size-wise, the medium Espada would be a fair EDC blade, but there's other things that are a lot cheaper. I mean, considering that those cost $75 on up, there's better things to be had. The AK here, for example, is $65, a lot more practical, opens the same way, has the same hook opening. So, anyway, sorry for the rambling, but this this knife has forever scarred me, and But I love this thing in spite of that. I can't blame the knife. I blame myself. It was my stupidity and clumsiness. So anyways, the Cold Steel Espada XL G10. For what it's worth, it's my 2 cents on that. Thanks for watching.